And now, marine weather around Alaska.
All right, we'll start the marine bit off with a look at tomorrow's forecast here. High pressure, light winds, good conditions here along the southwest coast, eastern Bering Sea, right on down into the eastern Aleutians. Showers over the interior, and then watching this system here push eastward with some gusty winds and rain. And we'll see for Monday, that continues eastward here, bringing possible gale force winds with widespread area of rain all the way from the western Arctic coast right on down across the eastern Bering Sea into the Yukon and part of the Kuskokwim Delta, extending back into another developing storm there over the central Aleutians. High pressure, mostly sunny skies in the interior, and showers on the decrease over the southeast coast. And for the coastal water forecast down that way, on the south coast tomorrow, west winds 20 knots, some cases gusting to 35 knots. West-southwest at 20 knots with 11 to 12 foot seas on the central coast, and lighter winds up to the north there out of the west and southwest with seas under 10 feet, winds about 10 knots. For Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, southeast at 20 with 4 foot seas, and maybe some higher gale force gusts there for Stevens Passage, and south at 20 for Clarence Strait, but the seas there up to 8 feet. And for Monday, Clarence Strait, Stevens Passage, Lynn Canal, south winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. And central and south coast, west winds 15 knots, seas 8 feet. And for the north coast, north winds at 10 knots with seas 6 to 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound, Sunday, south winds at 15 knots, variable winds 10 to 15 knots to the eastern North Gulf Coast, western coast southwest at 20 knots, west at 20 for the Barren Islands. Small craft advisories, Cook Inlet, southwest winds 25 knots, seas 5 to 6 feet. And for Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories as well for west winds at 25 knots, seas at about 4 feet. And for Monday, Cook Inlet, west-southwest breeze at 10 knots, seas down to 2 feet. West at 15, Kamishak Bay, west at 20 for the Barren Islands with 4 foot seas. And so again, a variable winds 10 to 15 knots to the eastern North Gulf Coast, a light northwest wind at 10 for Prince William Sound. And for the western North Gulf Coast, west winds 15 knots, seas 5 feet. And Kodiak Island, west winds for the day Sunday at 15 to 20 knots with 5 to 7 foot seas. Variable winds for the Alaska Peninsula, 10 to 15 knots. Seas not too bad, running 3 to 4 feet. Bristol Bay about the same thing, northwest at 10 with 3 foot seas. And for Monday, Kodiak Island, south to southwest winds 15 to 20 knots, seas 4 to 6 feet. And looking to increase in the winds here over the Alaska Peninsula. From the south, 15 to 30 knots with seas running 4 to 6 feet. Southeast at 15 in Bristol Bay with seas at 2 feet. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, variable winds 10 to 15 knots, so seas only 3 to 4 feet. Adak and Atka, south winds 20 to 25 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. And then some brisk south to southwest winds here for the western Aleutians, sustained at 30 knots with seas running 8 feet. And for the day on Monday, we've got northwest or west-northwest to southwest winds at 15 to 30 knots here for the areas west of Adak. Seas running 5 to 11 feet. Good gales in the forecast here. 40-knot winds for Adak, Atka, in toward Nikolsky. All those looking at south winds at 40 knots with seas running 8 to 14 feet. And for the eastern Aleutians, especially on Alaska Island, south to southwesterlies 30 to 35 knots, seas 7 to 10 feet. Southwest coast, west-northwest winds tomorrow, 15 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. West-northwest for St. Lawrence Island, Norton Sound at 15 knots. And out here, winds on the increase. St. Matthew Island, south at 30 knots, seas building to 7 feet. South winds 20 knots for the Pribilofs with 4 foot seas. And then we've got good gales here for the Pribilof Islands south in the forecast for Monday at 40 knots, seas 14 feet. South 35 knots, St. Matthew Island with 14-foot seas. Gale warnings also here for the Kuskokwim Delta coast. South at 35 knots. And then small craft advisories for the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island, Norton Sound. All looking at south winds at 25 knots, seas up to 7 feet. And for the eastern Arctic coast here from Kaktovik, Barter Island, Demarcation Point area, west winds at 20 knots with 4-foot seas. The remainder of the Arctic coast looking at north winds at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And the Chukchi Sea, north winds 15 to 20 knots with seas running 3 to 5 feet. And then for the day on Monday, we've got northwest to east winds at 10 to 15 knots there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, 2 to 3-foot seas there. Southeast at 15 for the central coast. South winds 20 knots for the western Arctic coast with 4-foot seas. And small craft advisories for the Chukchi Sea. South winds 25 knots with 5 to 7-foot seas.